Hey there, Algebra 1. So your video for tonight is all about our distributive property. And some of you might already know the distributive property, but it's used all the time, so we definitely want to review it. And of course, combining like terms. So this one is just a quick review. Now, when you're thinking about distributive property, I always like to think about the word distribute. So I'm going to switch to blue here. So distribute. Now, when you're distributing, or if I, for instance, were to distribute papers in the classroom, you would think about, okay, to pass out. Like you're passing out papers. And so when this happens in algebra, you're passing out a number or a term to a set of terms inside parentheses. Now, this isn't the actual definition, but that's kind of how Ms. Lawrence thinks about it in terms of our distributive property. So just to go ahead and prove to you that it works, I'm going to set up this equation. Now, I'm going to do 4 times 5 minus 2. Now, let's do this with our order of operations. You're going to tell me absolutely you have to do parentheses first. That leaves you with 4 times 3. That's 12. Okay. So that's the simple way to do it. Now, if we were going to go ahead and do it again, but with our distributive property, we would take this 4 on the outside of our parentheses and distribute it, meaning that we would pass it out. So we'd do 4 times 5, and then we'd also do this 4 times negative 2. I'm going to say times 4 times negative 2. So that means we would do 20 minus 8, which leaves us with 12. So exact same answer here. On this guy. As a reminder, with these video notes, you want to make sure that you are writing everything down, and feel free to pause it at any time. Okay, so these are the basics of our distributive property. Now let's jump right away into some examples. So example 1. I'm going to start off with a pretty simple one. 5 times 2x minus 3. Now, you want to make sure that you're going ahead and distributing this 5 to both terms. But what always gets kind of tricky about this is that you need to watch your signs when you are distributing. So 5 times 2x, that's 10x. Now watch your sign here. 5 times negative 3. 5 times negative 3 is a negative 15. And I can't combine any of these because an x and a 15, so a term and a constant, you can't go ahead and combine those. All right, so that's my final answer for that one. Now let's move on to another example. Example 2. It's going to get a little bit more complicated as we go. So I'm going to do a negative 3 times 6x plus 2y minus 7. Now you can go ahead and you can distribute to as many terms as there are in the parentheses. So it doesn't just have to be a binomial or a 2-term polynomial. You can have a many terms here, like this one is a trinomial. So you can go ahead, I'm going to distribute this negative 3 to all of these terms. I kind of ran out of room on my arrows there. So walk through it. Negative 3 times 6x, that's a negative 18x. Now watch it here. We have negative 3 times positive 2y. So a positive 2y is going to leave us with a negative 6y. Watch your negatives there. And one more here. I have a negative 3 times a negative 7 leaves me with a positive 21. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to check, can I combine any of those terms? I can't, because this is a negative 18x, I have a negative 6y, and plus 21. None of them had the same variables with exponents. All right, a little bit more of a challenge for you on this one. So example 3, we're going to have two sets of distributive on this one. So 4 times 6x minus 8 plus 4 times x plus 4. Okay, so this is where we're going to go ahead and distribute twice and then have to combine some like terms. So you're going to distribute your first 4 to your first set of parentheses. So 4 times 6x leaves you with 24x. 4 times negative 8 is going to leave you with a negative 32. All right, that's my first set. Now, I'm going to distribute this, I'm going to actually highlight it. Hold it yellow. I'm going to distribute this positive 4, and this is where you really want to go ahead and watch your signs, because whatever term or whatever math symbol's in front of that, you want to make sure that you're distributing the entire term. So positive 4 times x and positive 4 times positive 4. That leaves me with positive 4x plus 16. If you guys notice there, I'm using my positive and negatives as plus and minus. All right, now we need to actually combine some like terms. So I'm going to switch over to an orange highlighter. I'm going to highlight all my x's, and I'm going to highlight the symbol in front as well. So I have 24x and a positive 4x. That leaves me with positive 28x. And then let's use pink. I have a negative 32 and a positive 16. A negative 32 and positive 16 leaves me with a negative 16. I can't combine any more terms on that one. Okay, last example for you. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. We have example 4, and what I always like to say with the last example is you can of course pause this video after you write the problem down and try it out on your own, and then come back and check your work, because you can always erase it and rewrite it. It's always good to try things on your own. Okay, so we have 7 times a minus 2, and then a negative 3, or sorry, minus 3 times a minus 6. Okay, so let's start with this first part. 7 times a and 7 times a negative 2 is going to leave me with 7a minus 14. Okay, and this is where it gets super tricky with those positives and negatives, because we need to distribute a negative 3. So negative 3 times positive 3a and negative 3 times a negative 6. So this one is a negative 9a, oops, not x, a, there we go, and then a positive 18, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And we are almost done. We need to go ahead, we need to combine some like terms. I'm not going to use my highlighter, because if you don't have a highlighter at home, it's of course you can go ahead and kind of underline some things. I like to double underline for different like terms. So 7a minus 9a, that's going to leave me with a negative 2a. And then we have a negative 14 plus 18. Ooh, whoopsies. There we go. Plus 4. And that's my final answer for that one. All right, go ahead, copy down on your notes, take a picture of it, and upload it. Good job, Algebra 1.